We had to buy the food. We had to buy the gas. We could use the commissary on base and we could use the BX on base, but at times you would have to buy stuff off base on the economy, and it was extremely expensive. We were eating spaghetti
Yeah,
with no butter. We
sure.
were no sauce, no gravy, no meatballs. We were drinking Tang. Tang, did you know, could be served hot or cold. Okay. And we were drinking that. We literally had no money. We were scraping by. We couldn't do anything. We traveled just once on a bus tour where you never get off the bus and they drive you around for 3 days, sleeping on the bus. Um, we laugh because we go to McConnell Air Force Base, and that's where I get my, as they said, I got my promotion, I got my stripes. I made the E5, and we then had base housing. You know what? And I'm not a person that really focuses on the monetary aspects of life, but you have to as far as survival. We laughed because when I was retiring from the police department, and in combination with our business, we were making more money in 1 week than we were making in our first year of being in the military.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know,
is McConnell, is that Kansas?
yeah, that is. And there
So
is a Yellow Book Road.
there is a yellow brick road. Um, now, uh, when you leave the military, that's when you start getting involved with the Suffolk County Police Force.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your years. We've got 10 minutes left, so tell us
Okay.
about your years with the police department.
Sure. I go to the academy, graduate the academy, and I get stationed in the second precinct in Huntington, New York. And my first post, is a foot post. I'm walking around Huntington Village, and I'm doing what a police officer does. And because of my military background, a slot opens up for a field training officer, and the fact that nobody in my squad really wanted to do it, I became a field training officer while still on probation. So that is like just so unusual. I get my own sector car on a permanent basis, excuse me, and I start teaching new recruits out of the academy.
Wow.
And so that becomes my first, mark in the sand. I'm ahead of myself. I'm a field training officer. I'm doing my job. I'm making arrests. My field training officer was a very nice man and went on to have a very successful career. And he says to me when we're driving around in the car, he says, "You know how to do DWIs? You know how to make those arrests?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And he goes, "Okay, let's make them." He says, "I want to get my DWI bar." So in the police department at that time, if you made 12 DWI arrests that were unaccident related, you would get a DWI bar, and he wanted it. I'm like, "Okay." I said, "But when they start puking and start pooping," I said, "I'm not cleaning it up." And so we had a deal. So we go out, and the first day we make our first DWI arrest, and then we go out and we process the paperwork. I'm acclimated to that. I've done the paperwork in the military, and it's basically the same, and I've been trained on it. So that was fast. We go out on the road. He goes, "Can we do another one tomorrow?" I said, "Let's do another one today." So we go out and we make our second DWI arrest, and we get that paperwork done, and we're driving back to our relief point. He goes, "Maybe we can do another one tomorrow." I said, "Well, if you want to do another one," I said, "if we see one along the way," I said, "we'll pull them over." And we did. We made 3 DWI arrests in an 8-hour tour. So needless to say, in the 6 weeks that I was with him, he got his DWI car. I transferred to the 5th precinct to get closer to home.
Now, where's that?
That's Patchogue. And I get my own sector car there. I'm working, and they're interviewing people for crime control, plain clothes, kind of like a junior detective slot. And I have 3.5 years on at the time. And my lieutenant goes into the precinct inspector and says, "You got to give Phil Daly an interview." And he looks at my record and he goes, "I can't. You have to have 5 years on to be interviewed." And he says, "No, you got to give this guy an interview. I'm telling you, you got to give him an interview." So to my lieutenant's credit, he convinced the inspector. I went in for the interview, and I did extremely well. And I subsequently went into crime control with 3.5 years on the job. And basically that meant I was going to work as a plainclothes police officer sent out in the field and told to make arrests. And that's like putting a kid in a candy store and telling me everything's free. you know. So me and my partner went out, like our first month, we ended up with what the police department would term as 54 arrests. So there were subjects that were being arrested that were charged with multiple crimes and subjects that were being charged with singular crimes. And that turned out to be 54 for the first month. I received my interview for detective. I made detective with 7.5 years on the job. And I had a really good boss. He's passed away. His name was Joe Napolitano. Joe was a really excellent detective lieutenant. He had a lot of faith in me. I think that's one of the reasons why I became a detective. I think he had his hand in it. I went on to work as a detective for 20 years, and I estimate that I handled over 40,000 violent felony criminal cases in that time frame. It's a lot. When I first made detective in 1992, there were basically 10 detectives in each team. When I retired in 2012, there were 5 detectives in each team. And the crime rate did not go down. It went up. One month I picked up over 200 cases. I think it was like 228 or somewhere around that level. I picked up just myself 228 cases. So you had to solve cases, according to the police department, within 30 days. So imagine the workload that was on you. And it became too stressful, and I had 27 years on, and I was looking at the next stage of my life. I was retiring into my business, and I was going to do that. I did retire, and then the pandemic happened, and I decided after the pandemic I was too old to be traveling around the country, and decided that I was going to start coaching fencing again, or for the first time. Coached other sports, but never fencing.
Now, the population in Suffolk County increased significantly over your tenure as a detective.
Oh, yeah.
Did the nature of the people change?
No, I think, I used to use the percentage, and this is just, it's a random percentage. It's not a credible statement because I can't back it up with facts. So pardon me, but I'm going to make an incredulous statement. I think about 2% of the population is bad. It's just bad. They're never going to be good. I look at my role as the director of the fencing club, and I say to myself, I can teach my student coaches, my coaches, to be good fencing coaches. I can't teach them to be good people. That's their parents' job. If I get them, they're 18, 19, 20, 25, and they're bad people, I can't change them in the confines of what I do. And when I looked at that, I looked at it as a police officer, and I said, there are really good people in Suffolk County, Nassau County. There's really good people everywhere. And unfortunately, some of them are put in situations where they're born into a bad neighborhood, or they can't afford to move into a good neighborhood. It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but there's always going to be that 2%. And I don't care about your social, your economic background, right? You can have a lot of money and still be a bad person.
Sure.
You can be poor and be a good person. It's not your creed. My family, growing up, one of my brothers married a girl who came from China. She was a citizen before he married her. Another one of my brothers married a girl whose family comes from Grenada, and she's British Colombian, and she appears to be black. So, the notion about society and being woke, when somebody says to me something about, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I happen to believe that there should be some of that. I look at them and I tell them, my family was woke while your family was napping. This has been my family for 30 plus years. We've accepted everybody. We don't judge you based upon the color of your skin. We judge you based upon the quality of your heart. If you have a bad heart, we're going to judge it. You have to change. And if you don't change, then we're just going to isolate you from us. We're not going to be involved with you. But I think that the law enforcement community in Suffolk and Nassau County, the sheriffs, the police department, the Suffolk County Police Department, the Suffolk County sheriffs, they're really good people. We're doing an initiative in our fencing club where we have environmental beautification. We have food drives that we do. We target senior citizens. So we have food ambassadors. We have environmental and beautification ambassadors. I reached out to the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, and some of their members are actually volunteering their time to come out with us in a coordinated effort. And we're going to be cleaning up the streets. We're signing contracts with the Suffolk County government to have certain sections of roadways assigned to us. We're going to be out there cleaning it up, and they're going to be providing road security for us, and they're doing it free. And
I've got 1 minute left with you. I'm
Sure.
going to throw a couple of quick questions at you.
Fire away.
How old were you when you guys got married?
I was 21.
That's what people did. People
Yeah.
don't do that anymore. And when you go to somebody's house and they're going to have dinner, or you meet some people at a party, people talk. What do you do for a living? I sell insurance or whatever. When people know that you are a fencer and a referee of fencing and a devotee of fencing, are they intrigued, and does that become a big part of the conversation?
Sure. It's any aspect of your life, they're going to tag on to it.
Growing up, did you have any heroes, and do you have any heroes now?
Well, looking back in life, I did have a hero. He was a high school gym teacher, and Anthony Quintoni. He was my high school or my elementary school gym teacher, and through my life, that man would stay in contact with me, and he would talk to me and encourage me. He was just a great guy, He's passed away, but Anthony, wherever you are, my friend, thank you.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist?
I'm an optimist.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the WUSB staff, Frank and Captain Phil, the engineers. I want to thank my producer, Trevor Christian, you, the listeners, and of course, I want to thank my guest, Phil Daly. Phil, thank you so much for joining us.
Brian, a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yep, you've been listening to Uncritical Thinking. I'm Bruce Starshuk, and until